How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. So, the players taking a lot of the brunt of the blame for this 2023 collapsed season. Now, the home finale was yesterday. We won that game, and, courtesy to the prospects having a pretty good outing. Peraza had a solo shot. Wells had another solo shot. And, Ryan, pretty good timing for Austin Wells to show up offensively yesterday, huh? After yesterday talking about the catcher conundrum, we're talking about how his bat could profile well. And bam, hits a solo home run, has 2 hits, looked really solid. So maybe there are some legs to that conversation. But I'll tell you what, right now the Yankees have some big decisions to make this upcoming offseason. And the players did the admirable thing yesterday after the game in the sense of they took the brunt of the blame. They were like, we should have played better. We needed to do more. We didn't rise to the occasion, and I respect that. As a captain, from Aaron Judge's perspective, I actually think that he is doing the right thing, and it made me think about it a little bit, and I'm like, all right, maybe the players should have played better, but then at the same time, who actually picks the players? It's the general manager and the decision makers up top, whoever it might be, the analytics department helping in that equation as well. So I wanted to talk about how the players are kind of taking the blame, but let's not lose sight of the ball here. Let's not lose sight of the narrative that's been built, that we've been trying to build, and that there's a lot of problems in that front office in terms of the communication, in terms of the strategies and the decision making. It seems like they agree with us because they are saying they're embarrassed about this season. They're saying that big changes are coming. Hal Steinbrenner is bringing in a third party to find the root cause of these downfalls. But Ryan, what does it mean to you that the players are coming out and Judge is saying it's a failure, like we have to play better, and Rizzo's saying, everyone gets along in the clubhouse, there's nothing going on there, we just didn't rise to the occasion. What is your main takeaway from the players kind of putting themselves under the bus, throwing themselves under the bus when the roster construction is really the paramount discussion to have here? What are you thinking about that?
I think that there are two things that go into a comment. I think the comments that they made kind of tell you that, I don't think they responded to adversity well. I'm not saying in the sense of they're mentally weak, these guys are losers, blah, blah, blah. I want to preface this by saying, I mean that literally. I mean, this is the first time for a lot of these players that either A, they're not good major league players, or B, that they're not in the playoff hunt, right? Adversity before was, oh my God, we're a wild card team, we're not going to win the division, or oh my God, we're the second best team in the AL, not the best. That's not, not saying that's not adversity, but let's be real here. If that's adversity, you're living a pretty good life, right? You're probably doing something pretty well. You're probably winning a lot of regular season games, blah, blah, whatever. And overall, this is a big change for a lot of these guys. Giancarlo Stanton, for example, this is the first time probably in his entire life that he has been bad at baseball. And I'm not saying for the first time in his professional career, his entire life. The dude was probably one of the best high school player on his team, the best college player on his team. In Miami, he was the best player on his team. With the Yankees, he was the second best hitter for basically every year he was here, except for 2019, where LeMahieu, was that guy, in 2020 as well. But consensus opinion was that Stanton was always, the Robin to Aaron Judge's Batman, and then before that, the best player on the Miami Marlins. So for the first time in his life, he's not a good baseball player. I want people to try to envision the concept of doing something for 20 years, right? Spanning back to, youth baseball and that stuff. And then for the first time in your life, you're just not good at it. You can't explain why. You don't really know how. You don't know what happened. You don't know what you changed in the preparation. That's jarring, right? It is a different, that's different. If you're Anthony Rizzo, you're a veteran, you're maybe asked to be a leader, and you can't impact the games on field. I think there are a lot of people, coaches. I actually spoke to somebody who I'm friends with who, he coached at the college level, and he was talking about part of what makes losing a playoff game really suck is that as a coach, you can't do anything during the game to change the outcome. There is nothing you can do. You just have to sit there and watch. And if you're Anthony Rizzo, that's the experience you're going through right now. You're sitting down and you're watching. You're sitting down, and that's all you can do. You can only sit and watch when Clay Holmes blew that lead in Miami. Or, you can only sit and watch when the offense goes dry. You're thinking to yourself, man, if I was healthy, I could put one in the stands right now, but you're not healthy, right? No disrespect to Jake Bauers, but he's nowhere close to what Anthony Rizzo was when he was healthy, right? I don't think that's an unfair thing to say. Even in LeMahieu's case, if you're looking at Anthony Rizzo, if you're looking at Giancarlo Stanton, these are guys who are in unique situations that they have not been in their careers. And there are a lot of young guys in that clubhouse. It is just kind of a weird situation right now. We know that they wanted to move off of Lawson in the offseason. That kind of tells you that Casey was brought in to be a better communicator. That tells you that maybe the communication lines aren't great between what's going on in the front office, going on behind the scenes, and then going on with the hitting coaching stuff. And if there are communication lines there, who does that affect? The players, right? So ultimately, Alex, I just think this is the first time for a lot of guys that they've dealt with things that they haven't dealt with before. And, I'm not too concerned going forward. I don't think, I don't think I'm looking at these guys like these guys are like losers or whatever it may be. End of the day, like dysfunction. How are you functional when you don't win, right? Like you're inherently dysfunctional. That's part of not winning, right? Functional, the definition of functional, things are working. If things are working, you're not losing, right? So, I think a little bit of it is played up because of the fact that they're not playing well, but these are some things that they're going to have to adjust and learn from going into 2024.
Absolutely. I mean, look, the Yankees have one of the best records in the month of September, right? Or since some date in August after they called up their prospects. They've been winning games pretty frequently lately. And I'll tell you what, sometimes like these things compound. Losing compounds. If you're a Giants fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about over the last couple of weeks. Losing just feels like it's the end of the world. Things are going against you. And I think ultimately the Yankees have a decision to make here. Are they going to put their foot to the metal and turn this thing around? Or are they going to take a longer rebuild approach? And if we're being quite honest with each other, pretty sure they're going to take the quicker approach. They've committed to Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is like, we're going into this offseason having tough conversations, guys. Like, you heard him, right, Ryan? Like, he's like, this is a failure. If I'm not sitting up here after a championship, it's a freaking failure. If Hal Steinbrenner is going to dish out $360 million over 9 years to Aaron Judge, you better believe he's coming back next year with a vengeance. You know what I mean? Like, and I'll tell you this right now. Going from having an MVP in 2022 to a Cy Young Award-winning pitcher in 2023 and having not made the playoffs in one of those years, let alone even competed for a championship, that is a organizational failure. You cannot have an MVP and a Cy Young in back-to-back years and not even be a freaking contender. You know what I mean? That's just what failure is the epitome of. So I'll tell you this. The Yankees have the money. They have the payroll to flip the script quick. They have the prospects to make a move and bring up some of these young studs who can help compete and make a difference on this team in a positive way. Volpe will get better, in my opinion. Peraza is a solid player. He should be here next year. Oswaldo Cabrera is looking a lot better. He should be here next year. Everson Pereira could end up winning the left field position. He needs a little bit more time, but he's got the stuff. Austin Wells could be here in a much more prominent role than we even think in 2024. If it's just a backup to Jose Trevino, so be it. But he's got the qualities to develop into a starter at some point. These young guys, it's time. Like, Drew Thorpe is close. Will Warren is close. Clayton Beeter is close. We have a lot of young guns here who can make a significant impact for the Yankees. And I think there has to be some sort of blend and mesh of injecting these young talents into prominent roles, but also bringing in experienced players who have the clutch factor. The Yankees have not been clutch this year, and they haven't been for a long time. There have been a couple of games that I can reference, like the Stanton one a couple of years back, and Judge has been clutch, but he also wasn't very good in the postseason last year. There hasn't been those guys that just come up in big moments. Ryan, how do you kind of blend together the usage of these younger prospects while also grabbing some experienced guys that have proven themselves in big moments and you can rely on in the playoffs? There's one out in the ninth inning and you need to run. Who's going to come up and who's going to step up and make that play? Who's going to step up and get that hit, get on base? How do you actually go out and actively blend together a young crop of players who can make a positive impact here, but also go out and get some experience that you desperately need to mesh with it? I think there has to be some sort of balance this year. How do you think that the Yankees go about that during the offseason?
Yeah, so I want to paint this picture because I'm not saying that you have to be optimistic about the 2024 Yankees. I understand being looking at this year and saying, yeah, they got to prove it to me. Now it's all right, the previous opinion was that it's a question whether they can win the World Series or whether they will win the World Series or not. But for the most part, this team is a playoff team, right? That's always kind of been the assumption with the Yankees, even for people who are negative with the team. And this year changes that for some people. And I think that's fair. They didn't make the playoffs. They made some objectively really stupid decisions, decisions that don't get made by really good organizations. And here we are, in 2023, we're not making the playoffs. But as you kind of alluded two, like in their last 28 games, they're 17-9. Now they haven't hit. They still have like what I think it's like a 696 OPS. They have not hit in that time span, but they have pitched, and they have pitched their tail off. And a lot of their best performing prospects have been pitchers. Like I know Brito's ERA on the season's not going to look great, but as a reliever, it looks really good. I know Michael King technically isn't a prospect, but he's debuting. Not debuting. This is his first time being trusted to start, and he hasn't really logged that many MLB innings. And he's been, I mean, to say he's been good would be an understatement. He's been ridiculous. Looking at the position players, like as you mentioned, Volpe and all those other guys, like if they take those steps in year two, if you take a Yankee team that, for the most part, like, dude, we're getting starts out of Luke Weaver and we're winning games. I'm pretty confident if you give Matt Blake and Sam Breen a healthy, competent arm, they will get production out of them. If you give this team like a league average offense or like a slightly better than league average offense, are they going to win enough to make the postseason? I'd say yeah, right? Like I would confidently say if this team had an above average offense, they can make the postseason. And a lot of that is going to depend on the younger guys. Look, they can go out and they can make big trades. Or they can, I'm not even say big signings because it's like sign Shohei Ohtani or like what? Give $200 million to Cody Bellinger. Like neither of those things are happening, right? Or at least a second thing. I really don't think $200 million to Cody Bellinger is a great idea, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that there isn't a superstar bat available. Like you're going to need to make a lot of good trades. You're going to need to make some savvy signings, and you're going to need to make some internal improvements. Now, I think it's really encouraging that Aaron Boone, when asked about like how they're going to train for velocity going forward, said that that's something they're going to revisit. I think there is going to be some tangible changes there. I think that's important for the organization. Oswald Peraza's looking like he's taking his A swing a lot more lately. If you look at his last 18 games, he's selling out for power right now. He is swinging at everything. And look, I want him to tone that back a little bit, but part of developing is, hey, this is my approach, and this is kind of what Peraza's approach has always been. It's, hey, I'm going to be an aggressive hitter, hunt for a pitch I like, and do damage, and that's how he became a top 100 prospect. This is a guy who's a 20 home run hitter every year in the minor league level. Like I think the perception on him from the Yankees perspective versus what he actually does well is different. And this kind of, stems from this idea that like there are guys in the Yankees who do things that do things well that I think the organization doesn't give them enough credit for. Cabrera did a really good job of pulling the ball in the air. Does he look like a power hitter? No, but that's his thing. And he shifted to try to, put the ball in play a little bit more and cut down on the strikeouts and all that stuff. Well, if that's what he does and it works for him, why not let him do it? Even if that isn't a conventional role for a player that looks like him, I think it's an unfair thing to do to create kind of molds that everybody has to fit. If you're a big guy, you have to hit for power. If you're a smaller guy, you can't hit for power. Like, I think those things are a little bit silly. I think that letting these players kind of develop into the players that they feel comfortable being and giving them the tools to enhance those skills, that's what's going to make the Yankees a better organization. On the pitching side of the things, that's what they do really well. It's like, hey, here's what you do well. Here's what you do poorly. We're going to emphasize what you do well, and we're going to take that and we're going to take you to another level. Clay Holmes was a 4-pitch pitcher, I believe, before coming to the Yankees. 4-seam fastball, sinker, slider, curveball. I think he even threw a changeup in there. The Yankees said, hey, your slider and your sinker are good. Let's keep those pitches. Let's ditch everything else. And Clay Holmes is one of the best relievers in baseball. So, ultimately, it's that optimization. It's development. The Yankees are going to be tested this year to do things that they haven't done over the last 2 to 3 years, which is get position players to do more than what they're supposed to. And if they can do that, Alex, and I'm not saying go out and be the best offense in baseball. I'm just saying be competent, be watchable, be solid. This team's going to win a lot of games. They have the pitching to do it. It's just a matter of getting those young guys to take that year 2 leap.
That's the thing, the year 2 leap. That's what we're waiting for some of them. But I'll tell you what, they got the talent, right? Like, Ryan, we've talked about these prospects endlessly. We know them inside and out. We know their weaknesses and we know their strengths. And we know that they have the qualities to be very good. And sometimes it really just comes down to coaching. Like you said, sometimes like they're just selling out for power or like leaving their strengths behind. And that's kind of been my qualm with the Yankees at times, is that they've taken players who have a good makeup in some specific ways and they jam them into their mentality, into their ideology of what a hitter is supposed to be. And their strengths get left behind sometimes. Like, what the hell happened to Miguel Andujar that he looked so good in his rookie year and then suddenly fell off? What has happened to, like, Clint Frazier? What happened to some of these prospects who were once considered, like, really solid players that they just could not maintain it? Like, something changed. I don't know, but I have to imagine that it can't just be that they just fell off after a one or two really good seasons. Like, that doesn't happen if you're maintaining that confidence, if you're attacking their strengths. So I have to assume that there is some other factors at play here. But with some of these prospects, we saw Jason Dominguez. Now, there are players, Ryan, that when they do come out of the farm system, they fit the Yankees mold perfectly. Jason Dominguez is the epitome of the Yankees strategy. He hits the ball freaking hard, and he gets on base, and he does all the things. He can hit for power, hit for contact. I mean, he is the guy, right? Spencer Jones, he fits the Yankees mold perfectly. I would argue that, Wells fits it perfectly. Lefty, has some power. Like, there are guys here that do make a lot of sense in terms of, okay, like, they profile just as what the Yankees are teaching. But then there's other guys, like Peraza. Like, Peraza doesn't come off to me as like this elite slugger. Like, I actually think he could be a really good extra base hit. Like, remember when Andujar hit like 46 doubles in his rookie year? I could see Peraza doing something similar to that, just hitting extra base hits, getting on base, being patient. I don't think he's ever going to be like a superstar slugger. Volpe, like, he wasn't like a crazy slugger in the minor league system, but he was a slugger this year. Like, he put up 20 plus homers, and like that, I didn't exactly anticipate that, but I'm here for it. If he gets a little bit more patient in the batter's box and maintains that slugging prowess, you're going to see a really good player emerge from that. And, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but I feel like the Yankees sometimes aren't willing to change their approach for certain guys. They try to bring in free agents to like fill a need, or like, I just don't know sometimes. I'm confused by their ideas, and I know you guys are as well. But, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts about the kind of players coming out and taking the brunt of this blame when we all know it's not on them entirely. Yes, some of it certainly is. I'm not going to sit here and ignore that fact. Injuries played a big part, as Boone mentioned, but also just like the guys who chose the players, right? Like, our outfield was a mess. Our infield had some issues. Our starting pitching on paper was fantastic, but we invested a lot of hope in guys that were injury prone. I mean, Rodon has a lengthy history. Luis Severino, we know, is injured. Cortez has been pretty solid, so I'll give him a pass there. Frankie Montas has had shoulder injuries in the past. Like, a lot of these guys were big risks, and we were willing to take them anyway. And I think that guys like Yamamoto, really, really durable. That's the direction. If we're going to spend big money, let's go with guys that are, have showcased health over the past couple of seasons, and we can commit to them and feel comfortable that they're not going to be constantly battling with something. Knock on wood. But always happy to hear perspectives below, my friends, in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.